giving Tennessee the lead. Christian Scott, a leap at the fence. He robs a home run.
Sponsored by Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Ben Joyce kicks and delivers. Strike three.
Rock Solid Sports, the only show with a home field advantage for UT Athletics. Here's tonight's host.
Hello and welcome into Wednesday night's edition of WTK's Rock Solid Sports. I am Dominic Throngard. I'll be hanging out with y'all tonight, and I'm joined by the hosts down at Fieldhouse Social who are still in the process of setting up. There's another popular radio station in town that was there just before us, so going to give them a little bit of time to set up here. I'll give you guys the outline of what we're going to be getting into tonight real quick. First and foremost, obviously going to talk a lot of college football. It's near and dear to my heart. I'm sure it is to yours. Obviously, we got some controversial CFP rankings. We'll see how that all shakes out when the boys join me. We got Devin and JaQuez down there. And Rock Solid Sports Wednesday night show is sponsored by Fieldhouse Social, 2525 University Commons Way, for their support to American craft food, beer and cocktails, and a 21-foot digital big screen, TV indoors, and plenty more TVs throughout the restaurant and a back patio. Open at 11 a.m. Wednesdays through Sundays, closed on Mondays, and open again on Tuesdays. But yeah, going to be jumping right into some great, exciting stuff here. But before that, I'm going to cut it to break real quick, hopefully give them some time down there to set up, and we will jump right into things after that. You're listening to Volunteer Radio 90.3, The Rock.
Country, this is Kobe Angel from Knoxville, Tennessee. We are Volunteer Radio. Tell your smart speaker to play 90.3 The Rock.
The Rock receives support from Fieldhouse Social, sports games paired with cold beers and reach in University Commons. Fieldhouse Social offers a diverse menu of tavern foods such as pulled pork nachos, Fieldhouse Cobb salad, and Applewood smoked chicken wings. Kick back and relax in the lounge. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. 2024 baseball fall season runs February into May with games against SEC rivals Georgia, LSU, Missouri, and more into Mississippi. Allballs.com. Students need to show a valid ID at the gate before entrance. Tune to Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, go Ice Bears!
The Rock receives support from Cool Beans Bar and Grill, Rock's Monday night spot for Rock Solid Sports live broadcasts fall and spring semesters. Cool Beans has been Knoxville and UT's source for food, beer, and fun for over 20 years. Open 7 days a week on Lake Avenue next to campus. CoolBeansBar.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the Knoxville Ice Bears professional hockey team. The Ice Bears' next game on home ice is Friday, December 15th versus Roanoke. Face-off is 7:35 p.m. and Saturday, December 16th versus Quad City with face-off at 6 p.m. at the Knoxville Civic Coliseum downtown. Ice Bears tickets are at KnoxvilleIceBears.com or 865-525-PUCK. Tune in to WTK's Rock Solid Sports for Ice Bears news. Volunteer Radio says, go Ice Bears.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the Summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. Allballs.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, go Vols basketball.
This is Laurie Stewart from Blue Mountain, and you're listening to 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. for The Alternative, sponsored by Bliss and Corey Mason Shoes on Gate Street, and West Town Mall. And Bliss Home, the Gallery Shopping Center, also sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill Bar and Live Music Venue in the heart of Knoxville's Old City. The Alternative features 2 hours of the best in Americana music from the station who first brought Knoxville music about bands from back in the alt country days, like the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo, Steve Earle, and Jason and the Scorchers, to 90s Americana like the B-Boys, Whiskey Town, Lucinda Williams, Sunvold, and others, to modern-day Americana musicians like Molly Tuttle, Tyler Childers, Casey Musgrave, Sturgill Simpson, Billy Strings, and the Punch Brothers. You'll also get classic Americana like Johnny Cash, the band, and Emily Harris, and there's always Patsy Cline at 9. Tune in Wednesday nights at 8. Free Alternative. Sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill, Bliss Home, and Tory Mason Shoes, and only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols basketball program for their support. Coach Kelly Harper and the Lady Vols 2023-2024 home schedule includes games against Notre Dame, Ohio State, SEC foes, and more. AllVols.com. Student ticket info is at bigOrangeTix.utk.edu. That's TIX. The Rock says, "Go Lady Vols."
Welcome back into Wednesday night's edition of WTK's Rock Solid Sports. I am Dominic Throngard, and I am currently waiting on our host down at Fieldhouse Social to get set up. And while we do that, I figure we'll just jump right into things here. Obviously, a big week in college football. Playoff rankings just came out, and we know who's in the playoff now. It's going to be Michigan at the 1 spot, Washington at the 2 spot, Texas at the 3 spot, and Bama rounding it out at 4. Obviously, big news here. Florida State going 13-0, ACC champions. They don't deserve a spot at the table. Why would they? I mean, that is ridiculous to assume that a team that goes undefeated in a power conference should be rewarded for it. So the first thing I want to jump into here is I'm just going to go off on a tangent here. And this is the reason why I think the playoff is fundamentally flawed. Because on one hand, you have this Alabama team who we do know is one of the best teams in the country, hands down, unfortunately for us Vols fans. And on the other hand, you have this team that very much deserves to get into the playoff based on resume. Committee says they picked the best teams, but if the committee is picking the best teams, I think you have to make the argument that Georgia is in there too, despite their loss to Alabama. I really sincerely think that the college football championship was played in the SEC championship game. Those two teams are head and shoulders above the rest right now. And the issue with the playoff is they didn't pick the best teams, and then they didn't pick the most deserving teams. They just picked what they would think, what they thought would bring in the most ratings, which is clear and obvious when you look at the rankings and just how everything turned out. And the playoff as a system, it's been an interesting experiment. Obviously starting in the early 2010s. And then for me personally, I am not a fan of the playoff system and how it works in college football. I think it needs, to be scrapped entirely, if I'm being perfectly honest. For the entire history of college football almost, there hasn't even been a championship game. The championship game was new, and I did like that, and I loved the BCS system. I'm not going to lie, I think that was the best way of determining things because often we know who the best two teams are at the end of the season. This is a rare year where there's a lot of undefeated teams, so we don't know for sure this time around. However, in the past, when the landscape was different and didn't have all this NIL, transfer portal, everything, it looked a lot different. And I'm a fan of the NIL and transfer portal changes. I think they're nice, but the transfer portal could use a little bit of work just because teams are having to spend a lot of money. Lower teams aren't going to be able to compete quite as well in theory, although they have been. So that has kind of been proved wrong. It's an interesting spot in the college football world right now as a whole. But going back to the playoff, I think it's a system that's fundamentally flawed in the sense that it gives a committee power over who to put in. Obviously, we have seen the NCAA's track record. We've seen what they do time and time again. It is about nothing but money for the NCAA. And, I think we might have our friends with us now. I'm gonna.
In
I can
1969,
see them on my screen.
Auburn
Wait for
and
them to put their headsets on, and hopefully they'll be able to jump right in. But yeah, I think that the playoff system is fundamentally flawed, and it doesn't reward the regular season. And college football has always been all about the regular season. I think that is why it is special as a sport. That's why it's so different from the NFL, because teams like Alabama and Georgia, they had to win every single game in the regular season to get a shot at the title. Now they can lose a couple games and still get in. And expanding playoff makes that even worse because they're just going to keep getting in and they're just going to keep winning. And this used to be a championship that was, in my eyes, the most difficult to win in any sport. I feel like the college football championship just was on a different level because you can't mess up at any point, and you have so many different young guys who are trying to make something work, who are obviously young and inexperienced, and so making that work and making all the stars align was the most difficult thing you could possibly do. And so I always held the college football championship in the most high regard, and now it's been diluted by the playoff because even with the 4 team, we've seen teams get in with that one loss that wouldn't have made a national title game, and it makes sense. All right, I'm gonna test and make sure I can hear these guys talking to me.
Hey, Dom, can you hear
Hey,
us?
yeah, I can finally hear you guys. Welcome into the show, JaQuez and Devin, our guys down at Fieldhouse Social.
Yes, we are here at Fieldhouse Social, 2525 University Commons Way, and we want to thank them for their support. American craft food, beer, and cocktails, a 21-foot digital big screen TV indoors, and plenty more TVs throughout the restaurant and the back patio. Open at 11 a.m. Wednesdays through Sundays, and it's just a fantastic environment to be here. Lots of sports going on. We got a lot of stuff to get into. I'm super excited. Dom, we just came in. You already got us started with the college football talk, as I heard there, but let's just jump into it. Controversial college football playoff rankings. In my opinion, the most controversial we've had yet, and it makes sense because this year there was so many good choices to pick from. But again, the top 4 are Michigan, number 1, Washington, number 2, go Huskies, Texas, number 3, and Alabama, number 4. Undefeated Florida State, 13-0 ACC champions, left out, and Georgia, 29-game winning streak snapped, back-to-back national champions, number 1 the entire season, and they are left out, but they're going to get to play each other in the Orange Bowl. Guys, I'm going to start with you, JaQuez. Dom, I wonder if you already got your opinions into it already, but was this the right decision here? Did the playoff committee get this decision right?
I think so. I think it's unfair to them considering that they did everything right. You think about a team that went out there and his coach preached playing hard, playing fast, playing tough. I think they did everything right as a team. I think every opponent they went in, they ended up beating them. And, they did everything right as a team to be undefeated, to come out on end and try to put themselves in the playoffs. But when you think about money, right? When you think about money, you think about people's decisions. I think the committee made the right call because if you was watching the last game, they was running Wildcat dang near half of the whole game towards the third and the fourth quarter. And if you would have seen, they was just running when a sweep comes, and they were just running a jet sweep, and they just let the quarterback keep. And then the 2 people that was running was a wide receiver and a running back. And as you can see, the third string QB couldn't get the job done. They could barely go down and score. So when you talk about playing competitive teams, as you go further on into the playoffs, it will be hard for them to score, and it will be a blowout, and then you lose money when it's a blowout. So I think they made the right decision by not putting them in the playoffs. Unfortunately, it's unfair, but hey, it's the world that we live in. Nothing is
Yeah, Tom, what do you think?
I definitely already got my takes in there pretty good at the start, but the trivia guy is a little distracting, isn't it? Can you guys mute your mics? Not, thank you. But yeah, I already got my opinions in for the most part. But I do think these teams are close to the most deserving. I do honestly have a lot of problem with Michigan being there, though, because we have essentially confirmed that they went out of their way to make sure other teams, cough, cough, Tennessee, did not get into the playoffs so they could have an easier path. If they're going to do that, I feel like they deserve to have the rights to play in the playoff game waived. However, they're going to take a long time with that decision, and that's frustrating, but it's the truth. So right now they're a team that's currently in, but I don't think there's a right way to do this no matter how you slice it. Nonetheless, it dilutes the game a lot to have the playoff. I mentioned this before when I was ranting and raving, but it dilutes the sport of college football to have a playoff and have these teams picked out when it makes regular season accomplishments so relevant. And it's so blatantly obvious now that this is a game for revenue. It's no longer a school tradition. It's no longer an American tradition. It's just, well, I suppose making money is a big American tradition. So, I mean, it is what it is now, but it's no longer the same animal that it was. So if you're a money hungry animal and you like seeing the most lame version of college football, I think you have a winner here.
Well, I will say this. I think Florida State, is deserving of this playoff spot. And I was very annoyed when I saw Alabama flash at number 4 because, of course, it's Alabama, very annoying team. But, at the end of the day, if I had to say which team I think would win in a head-to-head matchup, if it was on a neutral field, now home field advantage, that changes things, but if it was on a neutral field between Florida State right now and without Jordan Travis and Alabama right now, I would pick Alabama to win that matchup head-to-head, and I think just about everybody would. And same goes for Texas versus Florida State as well. So ultimately, both of these playoff semifinals, I think, are really, really exciting matchups. And again, Dom brought up money. The sad thing is, sports betting has really taken over. I'm not a huge fan of it, but they look at the betting lines and they see, okay, Michigan versus Florida State. Michigan would be a 2-touchdown favorite, roughly. Michigan versus Alabama, basically a coin toss. Michigan's a 1.5-point favorite. Texas is currently a 4-point favorite over Washington. So basically, those are pretty much coin tosses. They can go one way or the other, and that makes for more exciting football matchups. I think the committee is also trying to avoid a potential TCU situation in the national championship again. They feel like Florida State could be that team this time if they got in. But what I really like is that the committee put Georgia and Florida State against each other in the Orange Bowl, because those are the two teams that really have a strong case to get in as well. And now they've got an opportunity to prove it in a game. If Florida State really feels like they belong in the playoff, well, then obviously they should go beat Georgia in the Orange Bowl. If they beat Georgia, hey, then they've got a case to make. They can give themselves an unclaimed, undefeated national championship. If they get destroyed by Georgia, well, then there you go. Then the committee clearly made the right choice. So if they really want to say they're in the playoff, they got to prove it in the Orange Bowl.
I'm kind of with you guys when it comes down to talking about Michigan, right? So earlier in the season, their head coach got hit for cheating. I feel as though the committee, if you want to put Florida State out there because the quarterback is low, I think you should do the same thing you do for Michigan and go and put them out and solve two pros and one con. You know what I mean? So, and I don't think Michigan is a good contender. Let's really think about it. Every time that Michigan gets down in the playoffs, they end up getting their butts beat. So I don't think they will even be a contender as we go further along in this playoff.
Yeah, and so it's a real quick, we're not going to go super in depth into these games because they're a long ways away, but super quick. Let's just say our quick predictions. Just looking at these games right here, who we thinking wins the college football playoff national championship, just looking at it. I'll start off first. I got to say, I think the Washington Huskies beat Texas in a close one because Texas pass defense has been horrible all season long. It ranks 95th in the country. Washington has the best passing offense in the whole country. I think it'll be a shootout because I think Quinn Ewers is playing some of his best football right now as well. Both quarterbacks are so amazing. I think the Huskies win in a close one just as they've done throughout the season. And then as far as Alabama versus Michigan, I would love to pick Michigan to win this game, but Michigan has not seen a quarterback like Jalen Milroe all season. The Big Ten quarterbacks are some of the worst group of quarterbacks like you could ever see in any conference there is. The best quarterback I think Michigan played all year was Drew Aller on Penn State, maybe. Maybe Talia Tagovailoa on Maryland. that doesn't compare to what Milroe has become right now. So because he's such a dynamic quarterback with his arm and his legs, he's smart. He's got a great deep ball. I just don't think the Michigan defense is going to be ready for it. I think Alabama wins in a close one there as well. And then I got the Huskies beating the Crimson Tide in the national championship. All right, what do you guys think is going to happen here?
Go ahead, Dom. I want to hear your response before I go.
I think you are living in a land of delusion if you think a Pac-12 team can win the national title.
In the last year of the Pac-12, they got to do it. It's for the West Coast. The last year they're dying, they can do it. This is the team to do it. If there's any Pac-12 team that's going to do it, it's this team right here.
I will say you're not wrong, and I will always concur that West Coast, best coast. Nonetheless, here's how I see this breaking down. Alabama versus Michigan, that's our 4 versus our 1. I have no idea how Michigan is favored to win this game, to be perfectly honest. Alabama is a much better team. The way they ended this season is extremely impressive. They look like one of the best teams in all of college football right now. They beat Georgia, a team that looked unbeatable. And the level of talent and just depth on an SEC squad and the size difference of the guys, and not the size of the starters, but the size, 3, 4, 5 players down. They have more size, more endurance. I don't see Michigan being able to hang with them. I think it's going to be a tight game, but I really do think Alabama comes out in the end and wins by maybe even 2 touchdowns. However, Washington, Texas, bit closer to call. I think that Washington has played teams really well, and they've figured out games to win. They figured out ways to win games, and that's what I'm most impressed with Washington. However, it feels like they've been escaping teams and not quite beating them. Texas, on the other hand, has been very solid all year. The loss to Oklahoma, it's understandable. It's a big rivalry, and Oklahoma at the time looked great. Texas now, I think that their talent gives them a strong edge against Washington. I could see this one going either way, a little bit more so than I can see Bama versus Michigan going either way. However, I think that Texas doesn't win. I'm going to actually side with Devin here because I think that Texas is a team that continually chokes everything away. I think this is another case of that. However, we go to the national title game. Bama versus either Washington or Texas. I don't care who it is. It's Nick Saban and this Alabama team that is just so deep and so much more physical. If you watch them play in the SEC championship game, they hit harder than any team I've seen all season long. They want it bad right now. Nick Saban has lit a fire under his guys, and I can't see any other way that the playoff goes. I think that Alabama takes this one home, kind of without a doubt.
I'm thinking the same thing. Washington versus Texas. I see Washington winning this game. Washington's been on the roll. Their offense is crazy good. Some of the people, their offensive line is crazy good. Dylan Johnson posted on Instagram the offensive line going around, pancake people. Listen, he loves his offensive line. He's a former Mississippi State player, and me knowing him, he's coming in with edge. I know he's hyping them guys up every freaking day and letting them know that Washington is going to win this thing. All you got to do is continue to keep believing. So I'm taking Washington over Texas. Now, when we come to the other side of Alabama versus Michigan, I think Michigan has no choice to take the L's at Alabama. We're talking about Alabama, like how you said earlier, Dom. This Alabama team is really fast, they're really physical, they come down the hill. They can do everything you want as a team. And I also think Jalen, is it Miro? I think it's Miro, right? I think Jalen, I think he is really coming to make a statement. Early in the season, a lot of people counted him out. Now, ever since he went down to beat Auburn in them last couple of seconds, let me tell you something. He got enough wins underneath his belt to show who he is and what he can do. He has shown that he can come down in 30 to 45 seconds and win a ball game. I know it was like, that was good luck. But listen, if you would have really watched the play the way they crisscross, he got one-on-one coverage to a complete perfect ball for the receiver to catch. I think Alabama goes down, and I think they win the whole thing. And I think they blows out Washington because Alabama is on a journey to prove the world that they are still that national championship team.
Yeah, and again, Michigan, it's hard to pick Michigan to win these games when they just haven't really proven it in years past. 2 years ago when they made the playoff for the first time, they played Georgia. And, let's just say that didn't end up going so well. I think the final score is like 30-3 or something like that. It was that was supposed to be an even matchup, and, well, it didn't. So, anyways, There's a lot of bowl games. We'll just move on real quick to our bowl game. The Tennessee Volunteers are playing the most exciting team in the country, obviously. I'm just kidding. Iowa is the most boring team in the country. Tennessee's going to go play them in the Citrus Bowl. The Hawkeyes have one heck of a defense. Their defensive coordinator won the Broyles Award as the top assistant in the country. Tennessee's number 21, Iowa's number 17. Iowa's offense averaged around 16 points per game. Keep in mind, they did get shut out by Michigan in the Big Ten Championship, so it was a little bit higher before that, but not that much higher. Tennessee's offense, on the other hand, averaging 31.5 points per game, so practically double. And so, again, we'll see who opts in and who opts out. But just early on, looking at this New Year's Day bowl game, and it's the last bowl game right before the playoff semifinals. We thinking Tennessee takes this one over Iowa, or we think we're going to see a serious challenge from the Hawkeyes?
This one is honestly a little bit difficult to call. A lot is going to depend on guys who opt out and guys who stay. Nonetheless, I don't see a way in which Iowa can put up points. So I have to go with Tennessee. I think it's going to be really difficult for us to put up points. Iowa played Michigan really strong throughout most of that Big Ten championship, and just they didn't get anything going on offense, obviously, so they couldn't win. But even though they did get beat by a decent margin, they still held them off for quite some time. So this is going to be a bit of a slugfest. It's going to be really physical. And I think Tennessee wins it. It's just to beat Iowa, you need a field goal. So it's hard to lose a game against them when you're not a mediocre Big Ten team. Nonetheless, it's going to be ugly, and Iowa's defense is legit.
Yeah, I think Tennessee blows Iowa out by a big margin. As I'm going through looking at the schedule, I don't think they played anybody really good this year other than Michigan. Like I said earlier, I don't even think Michigan is that good, and Michigan only really beat them by 26. I think it'll be a good game, but I think Tennessee blows them out by 21 and 1 because they're an SEC team. They're bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, and I don't think Iowa can compete with it, even though they're ranked lower. But yeah, I think Tennessee takes it on.
Yeah, I'm gonna say. I mean, if I had to make a score prediction right now, again, though a lot of guys could opt out, I would say Tennessee wins this game 20-6 would be my score prediction, because I think Iowa will get in position for a couple of field goal attempts and make them. So not a touchdown. I'm saying a couple of field goals, 20-6. What's fascinating is, real quick before we jump into this last part of our college football segment here, what's fascinating is there's 8 bowl games between SEC and Big Ten teams this season, and they're the 8 biggest games for those two conferences. And obviously, this is one of them. Michigan, Alabama, obviously in the playoff semifinal, but there's 6 others. Got to be honest, looking at them across the board, I think the SEC generally is going to take it. But obviously there's so many great games. We'll save all those other ones, Cotton Bowl till later, Peach Bowl later. We'll get to all of those as we get closer to them in our shows. Real quick, there is a college football game this Saturday. It is one of the biggest rivalries of all time. Army versus Navy, the 124th meeting between these military school rivals. Both teams are 5-6 this season. Same record, 124th meeting. It's going to be in Foxborough, Massachusetts this year instead of Philadelphia. Guys, who are we thinking has the edge here in the Army-Navy game?
If you want to talk ugly football, you talk Army-Navy. These are two teams that don't know anything but running the ball. We are seeing some vintage offenses out of them, offenses straight from the 50s. This is going to be a fun one for sure. It always is a fun game. The pageantry, the tradition, it's a lot of the stuff that you love about college football. And it's the only game, so it's always a wonderful, enjoyable matchup. This one, it's always tough to call, though. And you never really know who's going to win it. It's never terribly obvious. But I think the first team to pass the ball loses. And I feel like that team that's going to pass first is Navy. And so I'm taking Army to win it.
Same, though. You got two good teams that really hate each other. They don't really like each other. It's always about who's better than who. And I think Army comes out on top.
Yeah, I like the picks for Army, guys, because, I was looking at their schedules. One 5-6 is not the same as another 5-6. And you look at it, and Army has beaten 3 teams with winning records this year. Navy has beaten 0. So in terms of strength of schedule, Army had a little bit of a tougher schedule, and they showed out against a few really good teams. I know Coastal Carolina was one of them. But yeah, they beat 2 other winning teams. So overall, Army has had a better season, even though the records are the same. So I see the Black Knights taking this one as well. All right, guys, that'll do it for our first segment here. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to 90.3 The Rock.
Listening to WUTK 90.3, UT's College of the most heavy rock you can get.
Support for WUTK comes from Fieldhouse Social, the modern sports bar next to campus at University Commons. Fieldhouse Social serves American craft fare such as burgers, wings, and more with high tops around the bar, a separate dining area, and a center lounge with leather chairs and couches in front of their 23-foot LED TV wall for Tennessee and pro sports. Fieldhouse Social has an outdoor patio with trivia twice a week and sponsors Wednesday's Rock Solid Sports. FieldhouseSocial.com.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. Coach Barnes' 9th season on the summit includes home games against Kentucky, Vandy, and more at Thompson Bowling Arena. Allballs.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. Volunteer Radio says, Go Balls Basketball!
The Rock receives support from Cool Beans Bar and Grill, offering tabletop sports, outdoor seating, and trivia Tuesdays. Open 11 a.m. to 3 a.m. 7 days a week on Lake Avenue between campus and the Strip, and the home of the Rock Solid Sports Monday Night Live broadcast fall and spring semesters. That's coolbeansbar.com.
Volunteer Radio thanks the UT Athletic Department and the men's basketball program for their support. The Vols basketball team's next home game versus Illinois, Saturday, December 9th at Thompson Bowling Arena at Food City Center at 12 p.m. General public ticket info for UT basketball is at allvols.com. Student ticket info and login is at bigorangetiX.utk.edu. That's TIX. The Rock says, Go Basketball Vols.
UTK, we've got one way to live.
You got time to breathe, you got time for music.
Only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
The Rock thanks the UT Athletic Department and the Lady Vols basketball program for their support. Coach Kelly Harper and the Lady Vols 2023-2024 home schedule includes games against Notre Dame, Ohio State, SEC foes, and more. Allballs.com. Student ticket info is at bigorangetics.utk.edu. That's TIX. The Rock says, Go Lady Vols.
The Rock thanks Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team for their support. Their 2023-24 home ice season from October through April includes games with Fayetteville, Huntsville, Roanoke, and more at the Civic Coliseum downtown. Single game and season tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Rock Solid Sports features Ice Bears Wednesdays with news and updates. Volunteer Radio says, Go Ice Bears!
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from the UT Athletic Department. 2024 baseball fall season runs February into May with games against SEC rivals Georgia, LSU, Missouri, and more. Allballs.com. Students need to show a valid ID at the gate before entrance. Tune to Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and the Rock wishes Coach Patello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. for The Alternative, sponsored by Bliss and Corey Mason Shoes on Gate Street and Westtown Mall. And Bliss Home, the Gallery Shopping Center, also sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill Bar and Live Music Venue in the heart of Knoxville's own city. The Alternative features 2 hours of the best in Americana music from the station who first brought Knoxville music about bands from back in the alt-country days, like the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo, Steve Earle, and Jason and the Scorchers, to 90s Americana like the B-Boys, Whiskey Town, Lucinda Williams, Sunvolt, and others, to modern-day Americana musicians like Molly Tuttle, Tyler Chippers, Casey Musgrave, Sturgill Simpson, Billy Strange, and the Punch Brothers. You'll also get classic Americana like Johnny Cash, the band, and Emily Harris, and there's always Patsy Cline at 9. Tune in Wednesday nights at 8 for The Alternative. Sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill, Bliss Home, and Corey Mason Shoes, and only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
right, everybody, we are back here at Fieldhouse Social. I'm Devin here with JaQuez. We've got Dom back in the studio there producing Fieldhouse Social 2525 University Commons Way. And it's a fantastic atmosphere here tonight. Trivia going on. They had this other big sports show on right before us, so it's always a fun time here at Fieldhouse Social. So here in our second segment, we're going to talk about some college hoops. We just got done with our huge college football segment. But now we're going to talk about the Lady Vols basketball team. For those that don't know, they're playing on the road right now against MTSU. Tennessee is 4-4 on the season. Sorry, excuse me. No longer ranked, and they suffered a 20-point blowout loss to Ohio State as their most recent game that was supposed to be pretty evenly matched. Guys, how are we thinking Tennessee gets back on track against the Blue Raiders here tonight?
I'm just hoping they do. It's been an extreme disappointment so far. I mean, getting blown out by Ohio State on your home court as the Lady Vols is quite unacceptable, to be honest.
Yeah, being blown out by Ohio State is quite unacceptable. But one thing we got to do remember is Rickea Jackson has been out for the past 5 games, and she's a big component for this team. And, you know, with Rickea being out, and since she's a big component for this team, I don't think that this team has that edge without Rickea on the court. So I'm hoping that Rickea comes back, hopefully after this Middle Tennessee game, to get the Lady Vols moving forward.
Yeah, and you know, Tamari Key hasn't been able to play as much yet, still working her way back in the season. Still, you know, Tennessee's got a lot of talent. It's still such a rough start for the Lady Vols. And, you know, the other thing I wanted to say, I almost hate to bring this up, but they're playing MTSU. It's on the road. MTSU is a 6-3 team. They're a pretty decent women's basketball program. They're definitely not that bad. They're pretty good. Typically one of Middle Tennessee State's stronger athletic programs is their women's basketball. But if Tennessee loses on the road here, they're 4-5, is Kelly Harper possibly in trouble here? What are we thinking of that one?
Absolutely. I think she already is in my eyes. I hate to say it, and I love the positivity and support around this program, but I really think it's time to be a little bit more serious about our women's basketball program and the state it's in. Kelly Harper has not won big games here. She really hasn't. We always, as a tradition, have tough schedules at the start of the year, and last year was the same case. She didn't really win any of those games. This year it's the same case. Didn't really win any of those games, and now the only win out of those difficult ones is Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is also now unranked. It's not an impressive start for the Lady Vols, and it's not the standard that this team should have. And the issue as well is not a lot of it is talent. And this program does not have a lot of recruits coming in. It's not recruiting well. It's not performing on the floor well. Something has to change, and I think it might be time for this program, this historic, wonderful program, to go outside the program. I think that was a key mistake. I think it's the key mistake that's been holding them back after Pat Summitt retired. And I just think this program has to go somewhere else. I don't think that Kelly Harper is winning this team games, and she's not bringing in talent. I think something needs to change.
All right, JaQuez, what are you thinking?
I don't really know Kelly Harper like this. This is my first time really watching Tennessee women's basketball. I'm usually watching USC Gamecocks, but you know, I think I'm still gonna give her a shot. Like I said, I really don't know her history like that, but I'm gonna give her a shot. I think when Rickea Jackson get back on the floor, I think everything gets back flowing. Like I said, she was like one of the leading scorers, leading assists, and everything, and leading rebounds on the team. She's a big part of this team. So I think when they continue, because I think they really built the team around Rickea after looking at all the pieces and everything. So still early in the season to call it, and hopefully they get that juice up in Kelly Harper's job. It's not in vain.
Yeah, and those injuries are major. I mean, we do have to take those into account. Those do make a huge difference. But we'll keep giving you score updates. Right now, the game is 9-9, just under 5 minutes to go in the first quarter, so still really early. Carrollton Strickland has all 9 points. The men's team, on the other hand, they're ranked number 17 in the country. They dominated George Mason at home last night, 87-66. And George Mason's not a bad team. They were 7-1 getting into that matchup. A good win for the Vols. They're going to play Illinois this Saturday. Huge game at noon Eastern Time in Thompson Bowling Arena. Excuse me, sorry. Illinois beat number 11 Florida Atlantic 98-89. An impressive performance. Terrence Shannon Jr. has been one of the best guards in the entire country, period. He is a bucket getter. Really good player. When we look at this Illinois game coming up on Saturday, we got to think back to the North Carolina performance that was not so good defensively. How can Tennessee's elite defense get back on track when playing this great of an Illinois team coming up in Thompson Bowling Arena?
This, luckily, is actually a much better matchup for the Vols than UNC was. UNC had more depth down low and was able to take advantage of that and spread the floor well. And Illinois, they're a team that is very good, especially with Shannon and Domask. Both got 33 in that last game and looked great. But their best players are guards, and we have a lot of guards. We really do, and we have guards that are great on defense as well. Hopefully Zakai is going to be feeling healthy, and he's going to be able to shut one of them down. And Santi, he's been very effective on defense too. But the real key piece I feel that we have right now that we haven't talked about much is Josiah Jordan-James. Really a Swiss Army knife of a player, can do anything you need him to on the court, makes a huge defensive impact, and has been doing a lot on the offensive end lately too. I'm going to want more out of Santi and Zakai, but if we get a good performance out of Josiah Jordan-James, I think we're sitting pretty well. It's going to be high scoring, I think, just because these are two teams that both have players that can score a lot of points. Hopefully Tennessee gets better at making their shots. It's going to be tough to really call this one, especially since it's at home for Tennessee. If it wasn't at home, I think I'd give Illinois the edge right now, but I'm hoping Tennessee turns this around and looks like the team we know they can be.
Yeah, same. I'm hoping Tennessee comes out on top. They have lost 3 out of the top 10 teams that have played in the last 3 games before they came up and played George Mason. I think George Mason was a big game for them to basically get their stuff back underneath the belt to be able to go into this game. So I think they come in with a little juice, but I'm hoping that Tennessee comes out on top of it.
I'm very excited for the game. I'll be going to it for sure. And you know, that's going to be a big-time match. I think that's going to be, of all the college basketball games, because now, of course, now that college football season's ending, that's the other good thing. Saturdays get taken over by college basketball, which is cool. But Tennessee and Illinois, I think, is one of the better matchups this Saturday. There's some other good, really good ones, but I think we really have the best matchup. It'll be even. Both teams are really good. Both coaches, Brad Underwood and Rick Barnes, are brilliant. However, I'm going to give Barnes and Tennessee Volunteers the edge. I think Tennessee comes out on top in this one. It's a physical battle. Tennessee's got the toughness. We've got the depth. And I think we're going to find a way to limit Terrence Shannon and his effectiveness in this game. All right, we're going to move on to our last segment. We've got some Tennessee Lady Vols volleyball news to talk about. You don't want to miss it. The Lady Vols are in the Sweet 16, and they got a big matchup tomorrow night. You're listening to Rock Solid Sports here on 90.3 The Rock.
We don't have commercials. I already cut to the break at the start of the show.
Oh, that was my mistake. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was slightly thrown off because right before we got in, there was this other show. So I forgot, of course, we started with commercials at the beginning. Well, that's perfect. Let's just jump right into it now. Now everybody listening at home doesn't have to change the channel or anything. They can just stay right with us here. Perfect. The Lady Vols volleyball team, they got into the NCAA tournament as a 3 seed. They're in the Stanford Regional. They dominated High Point University 3-0. Then they dominated 6-seed Western Kentucky. That's my younger sister's school. They went and dominated the Hilltoppers 3-0 as well. But Tennessee had a major advantage over both of those teams. They're way more talented than both of them. Now they're heading into the Sweet 16. This is where it gets real. They're going to go into Palo Alto and play the 2-seed Texas Longhorns. Texas, very evenly matched with Tennessee, very similar in terms of talent. And Texas dominated their first two opponents in the first two rounds as well. The winner of this Tennessee and Texas game will play the winner of number 1 Stanford and number 5 Arizona State, as in seeding wise. And the game is, of course, in Palo Alto. Both of them would be. And they're pretty late at night as a result. So tomorrow night, Tennessee is going to play Texas at 9 o'clock Eastern time. Just right off the bat, very impressive Lady Vols team. I'll start off. I mean, I'm going to say I could see Tennessee winning this one in a close one. I think no matter what, it's not going to be a 3-0 sweep. I think it will go the full 5 sets, and whoever wins is going to win 3-2. It's pretty much a coin toss to me, and I'll just say Tennessee just because they've got a lot of skill and a lot of ability to score on this team. But what are you guys thinking here with this Tennessee-Texas matchup?
It's definitely a tough one to call. Once you get to this stage in the tournament, really any team can beat anyone, and volleyball is such a momentum game that it is going to be tough to call. And I'm not 100% sure how these teams match up, but I do know that this Tennessee team has a great attack, especially with Fengall, just wonderful player. And, they have a great net presence. So I think those things are huge in a tournament when you're able to go on the offensive and you're able to have a good net presence. I think that helps a lot. So I got to go with the Vols here. They've played everyone this season really well, and I think they're one of the best in the country.
Yeah, earlier this season they did have like a little downfall, but now I think they're playing their best volleyball like how they was playing in the beginning of the season. I think Fengall, I think Janasia Moore, and I think Erica Lovett, all of those 3 girls are big-time girls. Literally, in the last tournament when they played 2 of them teams back-to-back, let me tell you, Fengall and Janasia Moore, it was like they was having a field day from the right and the left, just striking the ball down. It was to the point where it looked like a girl almost broke her back. So I think they come in with the offense that they have, that they've been playing all season long. I think that these girls can get the job done. I think even when they go up against Stanford after they take this win, I think they can end up winning it all. So I would like to see how far they go, and I'm just hoping that Fengall and Janasia Moore and Erica Lovett actually bring their A game coming into these next couple of matches.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought up that point. Tennessee's season has really been a super dominant season, over 30 wins this year. Only a couple losses right in the middle of the season. It was to Kentucky and I believe Arkansas, I think, were the 2 teams. Both very good teams in their own right. Those are just back-to-back losses. Other than that, they swept. I mean, they 3-0 almost everybody they played. It was a dominant. Eve Rockham-Watt finally built up a dominant squad. This was her best team yet. And they just went out there and played incredible volleyball. And just to give a quick score update on the Lady Vols basketball game, towards the end of the first quarter, it is 18-18, so very close with MTSU early on. Hopefully Tennessee can find a way to pull away in this one. And I also wanted to go back, since we have a little bit of time left here in this show here. Let's answer some questions from the chat here. We had somebody come in, Channing Tyndall came in, and he said, who does Iowa really have, in reference to the Citrus Bowl that we talked about earlier? What star players does Iowa really have? I'll start off. I mean, they had Cooper DeJean, but he's injured, so he's not going to be in the game. They've got Joe Evans at defensive end, but he's probably going to opt out. So their only star player left is the punter, and if he doesn't opt out as well. Guys, what are you guys thinking about that question?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the punter. He is quite literally the leading star on Iowa worth mentioning. Really, this Iowa team, they're a classic Big Ten team. They are the Midwest through and through. Those are just a bunch of corn-fed boys who play really well as a team. And there's honestly not a lot of standout guys besides the ones that Devin has already mentioned. Very much a well-built team, but no weapons whatsoever, especially not on offense. There's no one worth knowing on that offense unless you are a direct family member.
I don't know anybody that Iowa got, so so I can't even really answer that question. But I just know Iowa other side of the world. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's and the other funny thing is, speaking of which, I guess we'll quickly transition. Monday Night Football. We're talking about a little bit of NFL here right at the end. Monday Night Football was a very exciting game between the Jaguars and the Bengals won that one in a thriller with the last Washington Huskies quarterback to take Washington to the playoff. Jake Browning went off against the Jaguars. He looked really, really good. Definitely by far played his best NFL game of his career. And Bengals are now 6-6, and the Jaguars are 8-4. And this AFC is looking really, really weird right now. The Dolphins currently have the highest chance of being the top seed now, and the Ravens right behind them. And we've got a very exciting, of course, Thursday night football game. By exciting, I mean not exciting at all. It's a typical Thursday night game if I ever saw one. The Patriots and the Steelers. Just for context here, when they were showing a graphic, I believe during the Monday Night Football game to hype up the Thursday Night Football game, they normally show two elite players, on each side. For the Steelers, they showed T.J. Watt. And for the Patriots, they had no idea who to show. Like, they literally didn't even have a player. They just showed Bill Belichick standing there because they didn't even know who this player would even be playing that's any good. So they just showed Belichick, and T.J. Watt as, the two, player promo. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting game for sure. What are you guys thinking about that matchup?
Oh, it's a terrible matchup if I have ever seen one. Definitely not one I am looking forward to. Steelers haven't been that great this season. They're doing a little bit better now, being 7-5, but this is it's an ugly one for sure. And the Patriots, I mean, at what point does Bill Belichick call it a career and admit that he can't do it without Tom Brady? I mean, come on. The guy has been terrible ever since he let Tom go. And I think it's perhaps one of the funniest things in all of football. I mean, these are two terrible guys that no one really likes. And Tom, he got the better end of it. He was able to get his chip. And Bill Belichick is left pouting on the sideline where he was even when they were winning.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the Steelers takes one. The Steelers hasn't been, like you said earlier, Dom, hasn't been playing the best football, but this is a team that finds a way to win towards the end of the season. I think Mike Tomlin is capable of doing that. I think this is still a young team. This is not an older team, a lot of veterans. This team is still young. We have a lot of rookies within on the Steelers. So I think each year as they progress, I think they will get better and better and better. And I just hope that they get better towards the end of the season. And I think they dominate the Patriots. I mean, if you heard Jabril Pepper say, yeah, we're trash. So
yeah.
I mean, he's admitting that the Patriots are trash. So yeah, I think that the Steelers take it all on this one.
That was really funny when Jabril Peppers got caught there on a hot mic saying some funny stuff there, and then he had to apologize to his teammates because he's like, "Oh, whoops, my bad." But yeah, just to show the Patriots here, the last three games, they lost to the Colts 10-6, they lost to the New York Giants 10-7, they lost to the Chargers 6-0. So they're pulling in Iowa Hawkeyes right now these last three games. Very similar results to how the Hawkeyes have been the whole season, except with losing instead of winning, of course. That's just rough. That is a really, really rough stretch. 4-game losing streak. 5-game losing streak. My bad, excuse me. 5-game losing streak. I mean, it's just bad for the Patriots here, and you love to see it. I absolutely love it. I think they've got 2 wins on the whole season. So yeah, that is rough. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans, let's just talk about their next game. It is a tough one on the road against the 9-3 Miami Dolphins. Monday Night Football. Now, before the season started, that could have been one heck of a Monday Night Football game. But when the Titans lost to the Colts in overtime, painful loss right there, I'm like, yep, that is officially the end of the season. That right there is the end of the season. They could have maybe had a chance to get somewhere, but that's it. That's the season right there. Do we think the Titans have any really good chance of beating the Miami Dolphins in Miami for Monday Night Football?
I don't think this Titans team has any life left in them. They have looked defeated for a while now. They achieved high-level mediocrity with those 9-7 seasons and then slowly trended downhill ever since then. It's a team that you haven't really been able to make a lot of sense of, just doesn't quite get it all together at the right time. Like, Henry will have a great game, or you miss that production from them. They're all over the place. It's quite hard to pin down the Titans team. All I can pin down with them is just that disappointment is essentially guaranteed. And I don't see a way where they beat the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins, they're the Dolphins. They are an incredible team. They just beat the Commanders by a large margin, beat the Jets by a large margin. I don't think there's a way the Titans find a way to win here at all.
Yeah, same. I'm agreeing. I don't think they have no chance by the season that they have been playing. I don't think they find a way. I think this Dolphins team is a really good team. I think they are definitely a contender for going towards deeper into the playoffs and as they move forward if they get an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. But this Dolphins team is really fast on the perimeter. This Dolphins team is very fast up front. Did we know, right? Did we know that the Dolphins has Anthony Sports from Auburn that ran a 4.2 something in his 40? Did we know that?
I did not, but that Dolphins team, if you've got Tyreek Hill, you've already got a lot of speed as it is. And really, honestly, I think Tyreek Hill should win the league MVP award. I'm serious. I think it's so silly that nobody other than a quarterback. I mean, it's worse than the Heisman. If I'm being honest, you have even less of a chance winning NFL League MVP. I remember when Derrick Henry ran for 2,000 yards in today's NFL, and they gave the award to Aaron Rodgers because, just because it's a quarterback award. And Tyreek Hill is on the verge of potentially having a 2,000-yard receiving season, which is great, which is just crazy. I mean, Calvin Johnson was the only other guy to get close to that. And again, there's one extra game. But Tyreek Hill could hit 2,000 receiving yards and is still not even in the league MVP conversation. That is ridiculous to me.
584 more yards to go. So I think if he gets at least 85 yards a game in these next 5 games, or like at least 100 or 200-yard games, I think he breaks the record. Likely. Which is very likely because in the past 3 games, he has literally had over 89 yards a game. So.
Yeah, but anyways, that's going to wrap it up for us here on Rock Solid Sports. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you so much, Fieldhouse Social, for being our host here on 2525 University Commons Way. I'm Devin here with JaQuez, and Dom is in the studio, and we'll see you guys on Friday. You're listening to 90.3 The Rock.
Big Orange and proud of it. We are WUTK 90.3 FM, Knoxville, Tennessee, home of the Tennessee Volunteers.
It's time for 90.3 The Rock's The Alternative, featuring 2 hours of a variety of Americana music from the radio station who first turned Knoxville onto this music in the 1980s when it was called alt country. Whether it's old school honky-tonk, singer-songwriters, bluegrass, folk, roots rock, the weekly path decline at 9, or more great music called